Right, welcome back, and let me again welcome our guest, Dr. Mohamed Kamel, development planning expert. Thank you again for being with us. And let me start with the relations between Egypt and China, and they have evolved remarkably, particularly after President Sisi assumed office, and definitely with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, with a mutual vision for upgrading such a relationship. How far is that, or how can we read that, particularly within our reading to visits that occurred and many of other cooperation fields?
I think President Sisi visited China in the last few years over 6 or 7 times. It's a clear indication of the importance of the partnership and the collaboration between the two countries. I think that the president is building the relation based on a win-win situation between both countries. China is a very important trade partner to Egypt, and in terms of development, I think it's a very important relation between both countries.
I may say that China is not just a very important partner, but it is one of the biggest economies worldwide. So how far is that really reflecting on our relation with China? Why in the first place do you think that President Sisi was keen on opening horizons of cooperation between Egypt and China?
China is one of the top 3 traders with Egypt. We have 13 billion of imports coming from China. In 2018, we had 1 billion of exports even from Egypt to China. 2019, maybe a bit less than this. I think there is a number of important FDIs coming from China, and a lot of developmental projects being implemented by the Chinese companies and supported by the Chinese government in Egypt. We can see a lot of projects in the Suez Canal, like TIDA, for example, the industrial zone in TIDA. We have a lot of collaboration in the new capital from the Chinese companies, building the highest tower in Africa. There is industrial parks, there is construction work together. We can see now, as the report was saying, a collaboration in healthcare, in health, in medicine. So I think that it is definitely a very important partner to Egypt.
We'll shift to that part, the medical one and the vaccine, because this is a very important part of our episode. But before I go to that, we are well acquainted that China is a very stubborn, very here the Chinese officials are very much hesitant when it comes to industry or investing in another country, and that usually they prefer that people come invest in China. And it's a very well known fact that the European countries, as well as the United States and in other countries, are already having their own companies and mills in China. When Egypt convinces a country like China to come and invest here, how far do you think the Egyptian side was able to promote Egypt in the right way, and how far do you think, because Chinese are not at all, they're very intelligent people, so, and how far were the Chinese convinced that Egypt is a country to invest in?
I think that we have a huge opportunity for attracting FDIs from China. We currently did a good job, but we can even do a much better job, especially with the international trade that is happening, or the international problems that is happening between the US and China, and between the China and the EU. Now, a lot of Chinese companies are coming to be based here in Egypt for using the preferential trade agreements that Egypt has with the US, with Europe, as well as with Africa. So Egypt is definitely a hub. is an attractive place for Chinese FDIs to invest in Egypt and to export from Egypt. So there is a number of examples of Chinese actually manufacturers that came to Egypt and invested and exporting now from Egypt. And I think that the government is very keen in collaborating in a win-win and pushing this to the next level.
You mentioned here exporting from Egypt. So give me, or give us, because not me, just for the audience to know, what are the Chinese importing from Egypt and exporting to the world?
I think that there is a number of different manufacturers from China that are being based here in electric assembly in different engineering factories that are being built here. There is a number of one of the largest fiberglass companies in the world, Chinese, now in Sokhna, in Teda Industrial Park. So there is definitely a lot of Chinese factories being starting here in Egypt. Yeah.
You said that we need to do more and to increase such cooperation. In terms of what? What do we need, or what do we have to offer China further?
I think Egypt has a lot of opportunities in terms of unique type of value add. We have mining materials, we have location, we have international trade agreements with a number of countries. We're very well positioned in the Arab world and in Africa, and this enables us to be a very attractive foreign direct investment hub, especially for the Chinese companies here in Egypt.
I was very much taken with the word interdependence, presenting a model to be followed to the international relations. I was very much taken by this very particular sentence. What does strategic interdependence mean, and how is Egypt and China presenting to the world a model of relations?
I think that Egypt, with its position in terms of leadership in the Arab world and in terms of leadership in Africa, being one of the top 3 economies in Africa, it is and affecting the economic leadership in Africa and in the Arab world. It is a very important trade partner to China in this area of the world. So the interdependence is really about the potential economic ties and relations and the leadership of Egypt that we can do in our region.
When we speak about China as a big economic site, China is part of the G20, China is part of the G8, and I guess China is part of every economic bloc because it is the second
largest economy in the world.
Exactly. So when we speak about dealing with the second economic power in the world, what does this need, or how are we dealing with this situation not to be turned into a market instead of being partners?
I think that Egypt is, the Egyptian government and President Sisi is building a very strong relations with the Chinese government and using the benefits or the powers of Egypt in terms of location between the East and the West, and the trade agreements that Egypt has, the leadership of Egypt in the region, and building the right infrastructure together to develop both economies and both interests of both countries.
Indeed. When we speak about some of the big projects, mega projects Chinese have started with and involved us in a way or another. The Builtin Road.
Yes. Initiative.
Initiative, exactly. And definitely Egypt is part of that initiative in a way or another. And how do you view that initiative? How do you think Egypt is involved? How is Egypt a gate to China? Because China exists in Africa and exists in the Arab world. But how can we deal as the gate to China and definitely other world economies and world states? How can we be really this very particular gate into Africa and into the Arab world?
I think that building together manufacturing and industrial hubs between the Chinese companies and attracting them to the industrial parks here in Egypt, especially in the Suez Canal area, is definitely a very very important aspect that we can focus on, and we can serve not only the Arab world and Africa, but also serving Europe. So proximity, the location is very important. It's on Suez Canal, and building an industrial zone with attracting Chinese companies in that area is, I think, it's a gate to Africa and a gate even to Europe as well.
I guess not just the Suez Canal area, but also we have lots and lots of mega projects also in Delta and in southern Egypt. And I guess Egypt started with mega projects across all governments
definitely.
Egypt.
I'm talking about the pockets where we can attract the Chinese companies. But definitely, if you're talking about mega project across Egypt, definitely we have developed in every governorate, I would say, all across Egypt. With the Chinese as well coming in the mining sector, so you have a lot of investment from the Chinese companies in the mining sector. That is more towards the area of the Red Sea, not only in Sokhna, but more on the Red Sea side. I think that there is definitely a lot of Chinese investment all across Egypt.
So how is the Builtin Road initiative help in this process?
I think the investment in the infrastructure in Egypt is very important for the country. Developing industrial zone and in developing mega projects create jobs and definitely helps in the growth of the GDP of Egypt. So I think I think that the government is taking very serious steps in attracting the Chinese investors and supporting the Builtin Road, the Road and Built initiative, Builtin Road initiative.
Builtin Road initiative, because it was the Silk Road before.
Yes, exactly.
So it's changing, but same initiative anyway. When we speak about the Chinese ambassador's words towards Egypt, praising the Egyptian economic reforms that were made and praising how Egypt dealt with the COVID-19 so far and how the reform programs gave Egypt a breath line in order to be able to confront such a world and global challenge. The World Bank has given Egypt 3.6 growth rate, despite the down.
Yes.
The down or the downing of most of the economies globally. So how did you read the Chinese ambassador statements regarding Egypt? Would that mean that we are expecting more to come from the Chinese side? What? How did you read that?
I think that 16 countries will be growing in terms of GDP growth in 2020. Egypt and China among those 16 countries. And this reflects that we have managed, or the government have really managed well, the situation or the economic side as well as the health policies during 2020 and during the pandemic. It is a reflection that we are coming with, we have a strong structured economy after the economic reform plan that happened in the last few years. I think it's a reflection that potentially after the pandemic would reflect in a growth, in even more important growth that we hopefully see in Egypt going forward.